Hello, listeners. I'm Timstradamus. This is Monday. Hopefully you guys had a very restful weekend. Joining me as always is my talented and beautiful co-hostess, Voyse.
Good morning, Timstradamus, and welcome to all of our listeners. I think I have a pretty cute joke for you that's a little retro. Why can't you trust an atom?
You said it's retro? When you said that, the only thing I could think of was I had a friend named Adam when I was growing up that would skateboard without any shoes on, and I would tell him, that's why I can't trust you. That's a true story.
I can't imagine. You'd probably skin up your feet if you fell wrong.
He was actually a really good skater, so it is what it is.
Well, the answer to this joke is because they make up literally everything.
Well, he didn't do that. He just doesn't trust me. Oh, because Adam. Oh, because Adam makes up everything. Yeah, okay. Now I get the joke. I sat there after. I was like, For new listeners, Voyse and I enjoy reading and talking about stories from the internet that are interesting, funny, and dramatic. Because of our love of stories, we've come together and created this channel to share with you those experiences.
And hopefully give you some food for that. Go ahead and pick up that morning cup of brew, Timstradamus, and fill yourself with some deliciousness. Because this loose leaf tea is from one of the ones that we got from Pirate Fest.
Oh, yeah. I remember it just from the smell.
It has apples, almonds, cinnamon, and beetroot, and is absolutely delicious.
Seriously, one of my favorite things to drink.
Like a little apple pie in a cup.
10 out of 10.
Well, while you go ahead and enjoy your morning cup of brew, why don't we go ahead and delve into these stories? For any listeners wanting to follow along, all story links are in the description below. For our first story, am I the a-hole for telling my son's birth mom that she's more like a sister? I adopted my son when he was born. It was an open adoption, but the birth mom, Beth, was so greatly ashamed of being a teen mom that she didn't follow up on any contact, which was fine because I had no intention of involving her too much. The truth is that Ethan grew up with 2 dads and 3 older brothers. We always try to have him spend time with girls. A couple of years ago, when Ethan was 9, Beth reached out to see how he was doing. I think she spent the last 9 years being an overachiever, so she'd feel worthy of having a relationship with Ethan. Ivy League, married a hedge fund dude, yoga, etc. Ethan is incredibly self-aware and intellectual. You cannot bullshit him, so he and I enjoy a very open relationship. I told him his mom reached out to me and asked about him. I emphasized that she didn't forget him, but she had to go away to work on herself. I asked how he'd feel about talking with her, and he said he was open to it. They have a good relationship and spend time together. He's met her husband. It's been a good thing to know his bio family. Ethan is starting 6th grade, and he has to pick an elective class. There has been arguments about what that class will be. Anyways, he told Beth about it, and she fucked up by getting involved with the matter. She said, what's the big deal about his doing yearbook? He should do what he wants to do. It's his class. I was like, you got me fucked up. I said, girl, you are not his mom. You're more like a sibling, and siblings don't get a say in parenting decisions. You take a back seat. You're a seat filler in the life of Ethan. Just don't forget your place. She didn't say anything and went radio silent. I was the bigger person and reached out. I said I've been raising the kid for 11 years, so it was triggering for you to give your 2 parenting cents. You need to understand that. He understands that, so you should too. I guess she's waiting for me to apologize for something she did. I will not. Once you do that, then everything goes bad. Am I the a-hole?
So let's get into this singular Lego piece in the middle of the floor that you step on barefooted kind of story.
Ouch.
OP is the adoptive father.
Correct.
And he's had the child for 11 years. The child was adopted into an open adoption.
Correct.
That means that the bio parent should be still a part of the kid's life if they want to.
Or at least can be, maybe receive notifications of what's going on, like milestones in their lives.
I don't know exactly the extent of that, but I think the issue is, and I'm certain a lot of people probably had the same problem, based off of how the OP is reacting to all of this, maybe that's just how they are. They're very jealous. No matter what the bio parent would have said to this child, there was going to be a control problem, a perceived grabbing of their parental title, because I don't ever hear in this story where the bio parent is telling the child that they're their parent. He could strictly be speaking to his bio parent as a teacher, friend, confidant. Doesn't really matter, because they're having a life problem right now. They want to take a certain subject, regardless of what that is. I would like to ask, though, what is it they're trying to get into in 6th grade?
So based on the comments, the child, Ethan, wants to do yearbook, but our OP wants them to do leadership.
Okay. Now, this happens all the time. A kid wants to take a certain subject and the parents want to get them going in a different direction. You're allowed to have suggestions, but not hearing your kid out as far as what they'd like to do, I think is a problem. When you get into that kind of place where all you're doing is forcing someone into a direction, you're going to find out that they're going to swim the other way. For the most part, now there are situations where you get forced into doing something that's better for you and it ends up 10xing your life and you love your parents for the habit that they gave you. And when it comes to electives, I think it's something you pick. It's another subject outside of the core subjects. It should be something that you're interested into. It should influence you to learn more. That gives us good learning habits.
It begins to shape who you are and the things that you like.
So I think that's important, not to put your finger on that scale too much. I understand, though, as a parent, you wanting to facilitate them going into something you think is going to benefit them later. But I think by you sitting there and strong-arming him now, you're going to set the table for learning not being a good thing. OP, I think you're holding on too tightly. Bio parent isn't trying to take your title away. You are Ethan's parents. That doesn't just go away because the other parent came back into the picture. The way you've talked down to them and diminished who they are as a person, I think is disgusting. Why would you have entered an open adoption if this is how you were going to conduct yourself when they came back in? You having that struggle with Ethan and the bio parent will only lead to the destruction of that relationship. So in my opinion, OP, you're an a-hole.
So the consensus on Reddit is our OP is the a-hole. A lot of Redditors called out OP for being controlling and insecure over his son reaching out for advice from his bio parent. OP told Redditors that his son has choices over some things, but that OP has veto power. I think one of the interesting things that for me OP said is, my son didn't ask her for anything. He told her what he wanted to do yearbook, and I wanted him to do leadership. Personally, that speaks very strongly on how OP is trying to maintain that control. OP knows his son wants to really do this. The fact that maybe OP's son didn't reach out specifically for this one issue, his son did tell his biological mother what was going on. And a lot of the times when a child does that, it's because they're reaching out to any type of adult around them that could hopefully guide them and feel like a listening ear. The fact that his biological mother was a listening ear, I think, is one of the reasons why OP took it very much the wrong way. Well, the same as you have warned our OP, other Redditors warned that this will impact the overall well-being of the relationship. And if they continue to exert that control and put other people down around them to maintain that control, it's only going to twist them as a person.
Yep.
I would just like to put it out there. I think this is an important thing to say for a lot of parents out there who have to make this hard decision. There should never be a point where you feel ashamed for trying to do the best thing for your child. And I know that there are a lot of other people who probably don't understand or can never put themselves in the shoes of someone who could make the decision to try and give their child up for adoption. It's not something that anyone, I think, truly does lightheartedly. For OP to essentially try and bring it up as if it's some shamed thing that this biological mother had to do, I think is extremely disgusting. By no means should anyone feel ashamed for making the right choices to make sure that their kid has a good future. Those are just my 2 cents.
Agreed.
Well, let's go on to our next story and see what you think about being a little sus. Am I the a-hole for suspecting my wife of doing something awful at her friend's bachelorette week in Mexico? She spent virtually zero money and took no pictures. I am in the middle of probably the biggest crisis of my adult life, and I can barely think, so I apologize in advance if this comes across as really weird or rambly. My wife went to Mexico last week for a friend's bachelorette party, And aside for the plane ticket, the hotel, and the first day's food and drinks, she didn't spend a penny all week. I mean, on the credit card, it's as clear as day that on Monday up until about 9 p.m. she was buying dinner, stuff at the hotel shop, drinks at the bar, souvenirs, and then at 9 p.m. she didn't spend another cent the entire week until she was at her layover airport in Dallas. She says it's because her friend took over and paid for everything. I guess this is plausible, but it still is giving me a funny feeling. What is worse is that my wife is a person who posts her entire life on Instagram, on TikTok, mostly Instagram. But she does anything from get a latte to picking the kids up at school. She will post it either as a picture or as a story. The last thing she posted on TikTok was that trend of people jumping into their vacation from the airport. And after that, her social media is blank. I was kind of keeping an eye on it because I was excited for her to go on the trip. And again, I guess it's plausible, but it gives me a funny feeling. When she got home, I said I can't wait to see all the pics she took, and she really blew me off and said that she just didn't feel like taking pics that week. She has also been incredibly distant, and last night she said she just felt like sleeping on the couch because the AC hits better. This is 100% true, but I swear I heard her talking on the phone in the middle of the night. When I got up to check on her, I accidentally tripped over the dog and made a huge racket, so when I got downstairs, she appeared to be asleep. I brought all of this up this morning and said I'm not accusing her of anything, but all this put together is making me feel uneasy. I wasn't trying to bait her or fight with her, just get my feelings on the table. She said you are a major fucking a-hole for bringing this up on her first day back at work. I said I wasn't trying to pry, just communicating with her, and she said, your communication is prying and I'm not discussing this with you ever again. She then took the kids to summer camp and left. Am I the a-hole?
It's a spicy meatball. That's all you're getting out of me.
Wow.
All right. We have all the classic indicators of someone cheating. He says he's excited for her to go on a trip. It's a week-long trip in Mexico. Bachelorette party. He says he was happy for her to go, but then proceeded to watch every single thing. I believe that's how he's kind of wording it here, where
I imagine he'd probably, at least in my front, right? If you ever went on vacation, I would worry about our finances. Let you know if you're maybe spending a little too hard.
Well, see, before we would even have had a trip like that, you and I would have talked about what exactly is our spending limits.
I guess it just depends on the type of relationship that they have.
And sure,
too.
But a budget is important.
For me, the biggest red flag here is the fact that she normally posts everything on social media and now it's just nothing.
And on top of that, through his snooping, he's found out that she's not paid for any single thing on this trip after the first day. Now, she could be right about one thing. Maybe a friend does have a little bit more and wants to treat everyone. You know, some people live in that type of world. Now, I'll go back to what you said, the whole posting on social media. I could kind of look past that only because maybe when someone is on vacation and their entire life is social media, because he says she posts everything from the big things to the most mundane. So maybe she's taking some time off. Maybe that is her vacation away from that type of, I'm not certain if it's work or if this is just something she likes to do. I could see if she just didn't feel like doing that on that week because it was a vacation. Now I can see where the sinister might live in there, where a lot of people, even though they are on vacation, if they do have a social media presence, they still post because it makes them relevant. That's how the algorithms all work. So I can get behind people looking at that and saying, really suspicious that all of a sudden you go dark on something that might pump a lot of people through your socials. I could see it, but again, I can see it both ways. My problem here is when you come home, now you're distancing yourself as far as sleeping arrangements. He says that he hears her speaking at night. Now, that could be to anyone. You have no idea, but I'm happy he's able to at least in that moment have a conversation. He does broach the subject with her, and she completely tells him, we're never talking about this again. At that point, OP, you kind of have to pick a road here. Either the relationship is important enough for you guys to say, hey, look, let's get into couples counseling, or it's time to move on with your life. If they're not willing to fight for the relationship and push doors in your face like that, when it's important to have conversations, then obviously something's going on. Your other updates to this story?
There are, but first let me get your verdict on this one.
What is he exactly asking? Is he the a-hole for bringing up the subject or accusing her of cheating?
Or even suspecting his wife.
Given everything that's gone on, you're allowed to be aware of your situation. So no, in my opinion, you're not the a-hole for wanting to understand what the relationship is going through.
The consensus on Reddit is our OP's not the a-hole. A lot of Redditors push forward that there are some red flags here. The foremost being that OP's wife won't talk about the trip and considers it prying. As a couple, you have fun sharing these details, unless there's something to hide. Now, there are some edits and some updates, and this is a little bit of a journey, so let's go ahead and buckle up while we go through this. So I realized that her texts probably sync to her iPad, so I just checked. It took me a while to figure out the passcode, but I did. There was an iMessage at 9:15 the night she got to the resort to a number with no contact info that said, "Okay, I'll meet you in the lobby. Is the app you said Signal?" I looked up Signal, and it's kind of like WhatsApp. The iPad doesn't have Signal on it. Edit 2. If you have been following my comments, you've seen that my sister is coming over and she's an insane internet sleuth and is relentless when it comes to this cheating stuff. She also scares me a bit, so I'm hoping this isn't a mistake. I'm going to probably stop responding for a while so we can talk and she can do her thing. I am numb, but she can do this. Thanks for everyone and the nice comments and the reality check. It's not looking good. Edit 3. She cheated. My sister was able to get lots of info from the real estate guy, and my wife denied it at first, but then admitted it. Sorry it took so long to update, but I'm numb. Have literally zero idea what to do now. Edit 4. For people looking up our personal stuff, we don't live in Lubbock, nor does my wife work for the Lubbock school system. We grew up in the area and went to college there, but have long since moved to another community. Please don't try to research this, as you may hurt someone who is totally not involved. I'm getting lots of advice to delete this, and I don't want to, but I may have to. Edit 5. I know people really want updates, and we've been talking, arguing, screaming, threatening all day long. I'm more confused than I was this morning, that's for sure. But I'm also confused, exhausted, sad, upset, nervous, and I don't know what to do. I did make a preliminary appointment with a family law attorney tomorrow to talk about protecting assets and how to navigate the legal way ahead, regardless of what I chose to do. I will say that there's a subreddit that this was cross-posted to, and it may be the most toxic group of people I've ever seen online, and I feel really bad for those people. As for the privacy issues, no one has figured out who we are. That's not a challenge, by the way. I'm very tired and I doubt people are still invested. But if there's still interest, I can update either on this post or a new in a few days. I'm really hoping to sleep tonight. My sister still has the kids and they are having a blast and went to the lake with her boyfriend's family today, so I'm glad they are in good hands.
Was that the last update?
That was not the last update.
Oh.
There is one more update. Let me go ahead and read that now. OP says, "Good morning, everyone. I know it's been a while, but as I'm sure you can imagine, this has been the worst week of my life, and it's been an absolute whirlwind of activity trying to get things set up in a life that I don't even really recognize anymore. First of all, I am now in the process of getting a legal separation from my wife with the aim of getting divorced. She and I both want to take the process very slow so it's fair to everyone. I do have a personal lawyer who is handling the separation, but even she recommends that it will be cheaper and easier for us to do a mediated divorce. She, edit the lawyer, not my wife, has a colleague who has this sort of package deal where we will work with a certified counselor while we are meeting with the mediation lawyer to handle the legal aspects. The goal is to learn to be co-parents and friendly while going through the breakup. I know my wife is hoping to see the counselor with the aim of reconciling. I am doing the counseling so I can learn how to treat her with some sort of respect as the mother of my kids for their benefit. I can't possibly see reconciling, but I guess stranger things have happened. Those of you who read along last week know that my sister is one of those internet sleuths who, if you tell her a first initial and someone's eye color, she can come up with the person's entire life history in a matter of minutes. I pretty much let her handle all the dirty work. She did some research on the guy, and he's an absolute piece of shit. He has judgments and liens against him all over the country. He has 6 kids with 4 different women and is delinquent on child support on most of them. It seems like his MO is just wait until the kids turn 18 and hope they stop coming after him. And this is the guy my wife picked to ruin everything for. My sister did get in touch with his current wife and said that she has pics and text messages that prove he was cheating, and so far has not heard back from her. Who knows what's going on with that? My assumption is it's happened so many times, she expects it and or tolerates it, but maybe we'll hear back from her. My wife and I are still in the house together until the separation is official, and we may continue to be even after the legal separation is done. I just don't know, and I figure as long as we can be friendly to each other, then it's okay. I had to go away on business last week, and when I got back on Saturday, it was pretty clear the fight in her was gone, and she wanted to talk and accept full responsibility and was willing to come clean about the whole thing. I told her I really didn't need to hear any more because her affair partner had confessed the whole thing and even sent pics. I think her thing is that she's utterly humiliated and has been very quiet, even obsequious as her general manner around the house. It's not really what I want because I didn't get married to have a servant, and the change in her normal fiery and funny personality is only a reminder that something is really wrong. Kids are doing fine. They're spending a lot of time with my sister and her boyfriend and his family, so hopefully, looking back, this will just be the summer before their parents got divorced and are missing the turmoil in the house. I guess if there's questions, I could try to answer them, but that's pretty much what's been going on. I know one of the questions that OP received is, did your wife tell you the reasons why? And apparently, the reasons why is this guy made her feel special. I know I find it very interesting because our OP actually posted another post in a separate forum that's not an update, but it does give you some understanding into, I guess, them as a person, because they were trying to say when they were 15 and him and his wife were dating, I guess him as a 15-year-old, he cheated on her in high school fashion, you know? And he wondered if, because she had forgiven him and they had been able to develop this relationship, if that's something that he should do for her.
How old are they now? Do they ever give their ages?
32.
We're not even talking about the same game because they're well into they're 32. They've got children. They're married. There are things in this relationship now that a 15-year-old couldn't even grasp the concept of. I do like that they're getting into some form of counseling to be better co-parents on the way out. Because yes, even though you are split up, it doesn't mean you get the fast pass to being a crappy parent from that point on. I also like how he's like, she wanted to come clean, but I didn't need her to come clean because the guy had already shown me pictures and texts and stuff like that. I'm like, well. So
apparently, just to let you know how that kind of went down, because I read through the comments, OP's sister created a dummy account making this person think that this dummy account was actually his wife reaching out to him. And then they reminisced about the time that they had during this week off together.
I'm gonna agree with OP. Your sister's scary. Call it in the big guns, but honestly, she scares me.
The thing is, here's the, I guess for me, the rub. There are a lot of people who don't want to know the truth because the truth is very hard to take. I would always want to know the truth. I think understanding the person that you're with, if you have those suspicions and if you do call in the big guns, I think at that point, the moment that you mistrust your partner enough to do something like that, your relationship is more than likely over.
Well, going forward, hopefully they can both make the decisions that are best for the kids and don't force anything.
I agree. Well, let's go on to our next story and see what you think about an ex overstepping. Am I the a-hole for not telling my ex-wife that I reversed my vasectomy? My ex-wife, Jen, 38 female, and I, 42 male, were married for 8 years before divorcing during the pandemic 4 years ago. We have 2 kids together, 13 male and 10 female, who we share custody of and co-parent well together. At her suggestion, I got a vasectomy after our daughter was born. I got remarried about a year ago to my wife, Carrie, 34 female. Carrie does not have kids, but has always wanted a family. After many discussions prior to our engagement, I agreed to reverse my vasectomy to try to start a family with Carrie. I had the reversal procedure done just after our wedding. Carrie and I found out about a month ago that she is pregnant. She is currently about 15 weeks. We have not told anyone about the pregnancy until recently. I wanted to wait until I had an opportunity to tell my kids in person that they are going to have a younger sibling. Now that they are done with school, I had that chance this past weekend. Both of my kids were very excited and happy to hear the news. They get along great with Carrie and are excited to have a new baby bro or sis. After I told the kids, they wanted to call their mom and tell her about it too. I was a little apprehensive because I didn't know how Jen would react and tried to convince them to let me tell her first, but my son ended up telling her via text before that. Jen sent me a text a few minutes later, basically asking me what the fuck I was thinking. I texted her back, saying that I would prefer not to have this conversation over text, and asked if she was free for a chat. She said she wasn't and sent a flurry of texts, asking me a bunch of questions. I again told her I would prefer to have this conversation in person or on the phone. She finally called me later that night and was not happy. She told me that I should have told her I reversed my vasectomy so that she could talk to our kids about it. I told her that my body and my life with Carrie is not her business, and that neither of our kids even know I had a vasectomy, let alone what a vasectomy is. I've never told them I had one, so why would I tell them I reversed it? She told me that since this is going to have a huge impact in our kids' lives, that I should have told her about it first. She said that it is her business when it will directly impact our kids. I told her that it is my body and that my health choices are of no concern to her anymore. The conversation started getting heated, and I ended the call before things got too far. Jen has since calmed down and did send a text congratulating me and Carrie, but she still maintains that I should have notified her of my decision to reverse my vasectomy before things got to a point where Carrie is pregnant. She thinks that she had a right to know since it will impact our kids. I think she has no right to any information regarding what I decide to do with my body unless it is life-threatening. My marriage and life with Carrie is not information that my ex-wife has any right to. Am I the a-hole?
Yes, OP, you are a giant a-hole.
Wow.
Obviously not. You didn't let me complete my sentence.
I didn't have to because I knew you were such a troll.
How petty and controlling is your ex if that's her reaction to your kids telling them that you're having a baby with your wife? Kind of scary that she would believe that she needs to have that information, or that the kids need to be pre-prepared for an eventual child, maybe.
Well before Carrie's pregnant.
That's wild. That's a wild way of thinking. OP, no, you're not the a-hole, clearly. This is very topical because you and I had this conversation. While we are fantastically hyped and appreciative for the blessing we got, I'm getting the snippy snip soon. I think we're good with the one more. Very topically funny. I'm not sure if that's why you picked this story or not. But
I kind of did. I thought that this was very interesting. If anything, let me go ahead and give the verdict, and then you and I can keep talking on this more. So the consensus is that our OP's not the a-hole. For a lot of Redditors, they think that the ex has overstepped their boundaries, and that honestly, kids really don't need to know the private affairs of a parent's body. And this sounds like a really weird control issue that OP's ex has on them.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I do find it funny. The thread blew up here when it came to a lot of people saying, look, my dad had to explain to me why they had a vasectomy and why they had it undone so that they can have kids. I didn't really need to know any of that information when I was a teenager. It's their body. aside from that, there were a lot of Redditors that was saying, it sounds weird, but as a kid, you try and correlate and understand this. And for many of them, it was like hearing that your father got neutered.
No, I am not getting neutered. I'm doing the responsible thing. That's funny, though, hearing it through someone's eyes as a kid, their interpretations of what that meant.
Because you hear about your animal getting snipped because you don't want them to accidentally have puppies. And then you hear your parent is having this, and it sounds a lot like the same thing. So a lot of kids tend to correlate this. And there were Redditors that gave that viewpoint that that's not how they want to view their parent. Their parent's just their parent. What they do with their body is honestly what they do with their body. It really doesn't have anything to do with the kids as long as it doesn't impact the love and attention that they get as that child to a parent.
Well, that's what's weird here. She's like, it's going to completely uproot and impact our children so devastatingly that you should have told me that information.
But the kids
what does
were
that
happy.
Do? How is that impacting them? Are you spending less time with them as a whole? Are weekends going to be cut off? I'm not sure the visitation, but as long as he's not physically going, look, I'm shutting my door now. The kids are no longer going to be allowed to come over ever. But I didn't hear that. All I heard was he was elated to share the news with his kids that they're about to have another sibling. Hopefully, she does say congratulations after she's calmed down, but that might lead to exactly why it is they got divorced in the first place. That is a weird set of control problems.
I also agree with that. I think one of the craziest things that I can imagine is any ex feeling as if they have some form of control towards their previous partner's body. If I, as a woman, ever had an ex that said, well, why did you get pregnant? Why did you undo this? Why are you doing that with your body? I'd be no different than this OP here that says that's none of your concern. You're an ex for a reason.
Well, he also has to keep it to where everything is copacetic because he also is still co-parenting.
That's very true.
So you don't want to create rocky foundations and drama where there shouldn't be any.
But then you don't want someone overstepping your boundaries and disrespecting who you are as a person and what you decide to do with your person.
You definitely have to learn how to walk that very fine line. And I think he's doing a good job.
I agree with that. If anything, congratulations, OP.
Congratulations, OP. But now it's my turn.
I'm telling you, nothing made me laugh more than some of these Redditors that were explaining as kids how they were explaining it to other kids, how their parents got snipped like how their pets get neutered.
Yeah, no thank you. I don't need a very small child walking around going, look, Dad don't got balls.
Well, let's go to our next story and see what you think about someone dying of cancer.
Well, that was very sobering.
Just a little. Am I the a-hole for getting annoyed at my sister-in-law dying of cancer and ruining my wedding? I don't intend for the title to be so harsh sounding, but I don't know how else to put it. I'll also sound blunt, but I'm just posting the facts as presented. I'm marrying my partner A, who is from another country. Her sister B is dying of cancer. It is heartbreaking. She is a young mother and wife. Her diagnosis was about 4 years ago. When she was first diagnosed, she was given 1 to 2 years. Since we were in a different country, as she, B, remained in her home country with her family after her sister A immigrated, we saved up some money and traveled to say goodbye to her. It was about the 1.5-year mark when we went to say goodbye, and we had gotten engaged soon beforehand. So we also went over to visit some of the family and asked them how long they needed to save to come across for our wedding, as our dollar is much stronger than theirs. They said 2 years, so that was agreed. We spent a month with her, laughing, lamenting, spending as much quality time as possible with her. By the end of the trip, though, and with the chemo, she was exhausted. We said our heartbreaking goodbyes, assuming to never see her again. And then she made a miraculous recovery, with a less than 1% chance of happening, which was awesome. We, along with her other family members who had also immigrated, such as her father and brother, decided to put money together and support her to move over here to spend the rest of her life with us. That was about a year ago. Now my partner and I are getting married in 2 weeks. All of her family are coming to visit. It's a big joyous occasion with lots of travel. We forked out thousands to help her family get here, and they're all staying for a month or so to celebrate our wedding and spend time with us. 2 weeks ago, B got a bad diagnosis. They found lumps, and they said she has about a year left to live. She, for obvious reasons, didn't handle this well and lashed out at us and our wedding, telling us not to talk about it around her. My partner has always kind of lived in her older sister's shadow, so she was really excited to be celebrated and made a fuss of for once. But B has told everyone about her diagnosis and has started saying, "This is the last time I will see most of you." Now the focus is completely off my partner and our wedding and is absolutely about B. I feel heartless and heartbroken, but I'm frustrated by this. She has been going out of her way to make sure the people who are coming across, who we have paid thousands for flights, not that it matters that much, are spending as much time with her as possible, as this is the last time she will see them. Now this period of joy and celebration has an undeniable black cloud hung over it, and people very obviously have stopped making my partner feel special. On top of this, B has maintained her stance that we not talk about our wedding around her. But the big issue is that B got married during COVID, so never got a father-daughter dance. She wants to have one at our wedding after my partner has a father-daughter dance with her own song, which, to be honest, sad as fuck. I have said no because my partner wanted to say no but felt too guilty, so I had to be the bad guy. I also told my partner that if we're not to talk about our wedding around her sister, then I don't want her sister talking about her dying around us. Now I'm being called an a-hole. I do absolutely feel like one, but I also feel like this is grossly unfair to ask us to brush our wedding under the carpet because of this. Am I the a-hole?
I can't get by the fact that you have made all of these stories spicy meatball. I know I gave you that other one before, but this is truly a very sad situation. And I'm very sorry to hear about the ups and the downs of B. The way she's handling all of this, I can't blame anyone to go through the struggle at the beginning. I believe he says that she was the 1%. And then unfortunately, 2 years later, they find lumps. And now she's got less than a year or so left.
Correct.
You find out right in the middle of, or right at the start of this amazing celebration that you're being part of. You just got invited to the next part of your life. They were paying to have her move over there and live out the rest of her life in this new country with them, is what they said. I can't imagine the elation of that time period in your life and then to have the carpet pulled out from under you. That tomorrow is not a promised thing. Now, don't get me wrong. No one anywhere has tomorrow promised. That's why every time you see the person you love, you kiss them and you tell them you love them, because it's never promised. These type of stories remind you that life is very fragile. OP, I don't believe you're the a-hole. I don't believe that your soon-to-be wife is the a-hole. There's always going to be a time and a place to grieve and to have your emotions spill over. But when you're specifically talking about a singular event that's happening that is why everyone is there for that reason, you have to take a step back. Even though you are going through a very difficult time in your life, not understanding that everything is not about you and making it a black cloud the way they say it, I think is important, because it sounds like a lot of money and time and planning have been put into this.
2 years. Well, let me go ahead and give you first an edit from our OP. They said, "Sorry, I just woke up and will work through the many comments as fast as I can. I really appreciate all the views and discussions. It's precisely why I came here. Genuinely, thank you." And let me give you a consensus and a breakdown of Redditors' viewpoints. The consensus on Reddit is our OP's not the a-hole. It's often a hard line to walk to being a compassionate and understanding person in someone's situation and not feeling like you're being walked over because someone manipulates pity as a means to gain attention and use people for their purposes. It took me a while to actually write down those thoughts specifically, because Timstradamus, I have this, unfortunately, I see it as a fault to empathize with others and their pain. And my compassion can sometimes get the best of me to a fault where I sacrifice a piece of myself. And you've had to pull me back and say, you can be understanding and you can be compassionate and you can empathize, but it's not okay to throw yourself down and be the victim to someone else who's taking advantage of that.
Yes.
I think for a lot of individuals, you hear something as serious as cancer. And I see cancer no different than I see any other disease that whittles down that person till it's like they become just a fraction of who they once were. It is absolutely heartbreaking. I don't wish it on anyone to either experience it as a family member looking in or to being the person that's having to deal with it. A lot of Redditors, at least based on how I was reading the comments, it sounds like B has started utilizing this attention, this pity, and they're trying to make it about them. And it is a very sad predicament that they're in. But regardless of the situations that you're in, you should always be mindful of those around you and try and make amazing moments together, not bring down moments with negativity. There are Redditors that also suggested, look, you can have this fall one of two ways, OP. You can go ahead and assign someone at your wedding. Make sure that they're on B, that they don't start drama at your wedding, because this is supposed to be a celebration.
Yes.
And B, who doesn't even want to hear you guys talk about your upcoming wedding? That's in 2 weeks, because it's got to be about them. Clearly, they're not thinking more than just themselves. And if you still would like to invite them, maybe just assign someone to them that can go ahead and maybe keep them in check so that you guys can have an event that's not going to be marred with more negativity. OP responded to that one person and said, yeah, this is excellent advice. Thank you. I will likely follow it to a T. Today's drama, we woke up and B has told one of our guests he's not welcome because of something he said. It was a minor thing. She got a pretty nice new car recently, and he said that it's easy for her because her and her partner are living at B's parents and paying no rent or expenses. The dad is covering all the medical bills too. And for a lot of Redditors that heard this, they said, how is it that anyone can uninvite someone from a wedding that's not their own? That's absolutely selfish to do. Now, there was another suggestion that, if she wants this father-daughter dance that she never got to have, then why don't you propose that you guys can have another celebration well after the wedding date?
Sure.
A week after, 2 weeks after, and create a special celebration for her. At least providing where OP and his wife can still provide support to the sister in a way that isn't going to also, and I hate to say it like this, rain on the parade of their wedding and how they would like to do their wedding. It sounds like our OP has taken those two suggestions to heart, and I do wish them the best. This is one of those, man, nobody's winning in this, regardless of what you do. I can only fault B only to the point that you're trying to make it all about you when you only have so many moments that you can truly treasure. Well, I do wish our OP and his soon-to-be wife the absolute best. I can't imagine that it'll be easy, but man, the challenges people have to face. Well, let's go on to our last story of the day, and let's see if I can bring us back from some of these sobering ones. My husband is a human gas chamber. So about 3 weeks ago, I flew to South Korea for a vacation with friends who live there. My husband didn't want to go and said he'd be fine staying home and watching the house and dog. I trusted him because he's a 40-year-old adult man and assumed he'd be able to feed himself like a sane person despite him possessing the cooking ability of a cactus. I was wrong. I should have dragged him and the dog along with me to another country. What my husband decided to do during his 3 weeks without me was absurd. I would have been happier if he cheated on me instead. Because what he did was order nothing but Taco Bell through the DoorDash after he somehow broke my stove by cooking an entire 15-pound bag of red lentils all at once. Then he didn't bother to get a bowl for his lentils. He just ate them straight from the pot and stuffed the pot into the fridge and broke one of the shelves inside it. Now, realizing his mistake, he decided to order nothing but terrible tacos for the remaining 2 weeks while getting high on medical marijuana. Also, for some reason, he bought a bunch of honeycombs from one of our friends' fathers and decided those made a good snack and has eaten nothing but beeswax and honey for the last few days because he's some kind of weird alien in human disguise. Apparently, honeycombs give you gas, and lentils give you gas, and Taco Bell gives you gas. So now it's today, and I'm awoken by what sounds like someone revving a motorcycle in my bedroom, followed by the stench of the fiery pits of hell itself. It's 5:30 in the morning. He gets up and goes to use the toilet as I'm opening the windows in a poor attempt to ventilate the house, but it's too late. He doesn't even have a solid poop. It's just 10 minutes of gas. Like 20 seconds of nonstop farts, followed by a huge gasp of air, and then about 20 seconds of gas. By this time, the dog has hidden under my couch because it doesn't know what those loud honking noises are and fears for its safety. I consider joining it, but continue to open every window in my house. It's 62 degrees out and windy. The wind blows the fart smell around the house. My husband has left the bathroom and has walked upstairs. It sounds like there's a small 2-stroke engine in his pants. I can't take it anymore and scream that I'm going to get breakfast at the diner and leave him. I bring the dog with me because the dog follows me out of the house because it also doesn't want to be here right now. So now I'm at a diner waiting for my husband to degas himself while the dog sits underneath the table next to me wearing a pink leash kid harness that my friends bought for me as a gag gift that has my name and emotional support human on it that the waitress thought was some kind of in-joke. This is the start of my morning. I hope it's not as stinky as yours.
You? Sounds like your husband might have IBS.
Oh my goodness.
Picking a bunch of stuff that was not good for him.
Can you imagine? So I didn't know that honeycombs causes gas.
Oh yeah.
But to know that honeycombs and lentils
will do it.
And Taco Bell the whole time.
I don't know how you're 40 and you don't know how to cook for yourself, because all that stuff, although it's not unhealthy, right? Well, outside of Taco Bell every single day, that's not healthy for you. But the honeycombs and the lentils, that's not bad on the whole. But I couldn't go like an entire 2 more weeks. How long was this trip?
It was a 3-week trip.
I couldn't go 3 weeks eating just Taco Bell. That sounds...
They ate Taco Bell for 2 weeks, to be fair.
Regardless. I mean, one day would have been understandable, but eating junk food like that every single day for 2 weeks, that would upset anyone's tummy.
Well, I actually have a very small update for you. OP says it's 9 a.m. and my husband texted me to tell me to rent a carpet cleaner from the Dollar General because he trusted a fart and shat all over the living room floor. It's going to be one of those days.
Ew. What do you want from me? You said there's no excuse at 40 not to know how to cook healthy meals for yourself. I understand wanting junk when you don't want to cook. Everyone goes through those phases, but yeah, 2 straight weeks of Taco Bell?
2 straight. And then before that, it was the lentils. Oh my goodness. The fact that the stove got broken, a shelf in the fridge.
See, that's just...
The lentils crusted onto whatever like pot that's big enough to hold 15 pounds worth of lentils, cooked lentils. My mind is still trying to wrap itself around that.
Well, she would only know that if you left that mess around.
Yes.
It sounds like you're his mom.
If our OP hasn't ended this relationship, it must be true love. I like the description of how it sounds like he's a 2-stroke engine coming up the stairs.
Well, was that our last story?
That was our last stinky story.
I hope they had a good time cleaning up the trusted fart.
Oh my gosh, no. That I might get the machine, but you'd be the one cleaning it if it's your mess.
That's how that would work. But I don't know if I'd ever get to that level of... No, I enjoy home cooking too much. That just puts me in a weird headspace to think about, like, if I had 2 weeks that I had to not cook, what would I be eating out? And then my stomach starts turning. Because every once in a while it's fine. But
can you imagine? It's not that he had junk food. It's that he specifically had
Taco Bell. That's what I mean. If I had to pick one place where I had to eat out the entirety of 2 weeks, what place would it be that wouldn't create a cesspool in my stomach?
Probably like a Denny's or an IHOP. At least then you'd have a variation of foods.
Well, it sounds like he only limited himself to places that would deliver.
That's true.
Not that he could go to.
Well, nowadays, though, you can have IHOP deliver, right?
I don't like IHOP like you like IHOP.
I want crepes now.
Well, as our stories come to a close, don't forget, you've seen the world what you carry in your heart.
If you have enjoyed listening to today's stories, please rate, subscribe, and turn on notifications for new content. We regularly post on Mondays and Wednesdays. And on our Patreon, we have Damas After Dark on Fridays.
Friday.
We would also love to thank all of our Patreons for your support.
Yes, we love and appreciate every single one of you. Well, as always, listeners, we look forward to hearing your opinions in the comments below. What did you think about the stories today?
Oh, yes. Which one of these juicy stories really got you going?
You kept bringing them.
I did.
They got sadder and sadder as we delved further into this.
I brought it back with the gas chamber.
Only slightly.
Even then, you still sounded sad.
At 40? Come on. I get not cooking is for everybody, but that's, I don't know. You broke everything in the house. Your wife comes back. You're farting up a storm. Now she got to go pick up a vacuum for me. I just end up feeling bad for the OP, not so much for her husband.
I feel bad for that dog. He was a victim the entire time.
At least he got to go to the diner with her.
That's very true. Well, I think the story today that probably really took me by storm was the fourth story. That's always going to be a hard situation. And I think no matter what, there's no winners.
I think the good thing is everyone was able to give that OP some really solid advice. And it sounds like it's something he's using. So good for Reddit. Good for the OP. And remember, if you post it, maybe we'll see it on the internet.
Well, I don't want Taco Bell, but I do want IHOP now. Let's get some grapes.
Crepe.